Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shills, deathly sirs, peasants, vassals, meat sacks. I'm a useful idiot, and I am a useful idiot. And today I want to talk about Libya. And, Libya is a good country to talk about after doing the video on Yemen because we have these two smoldering piles of shit, one in North Africa and one at the tip of the Arabian Peninsula. And they both descended into a complete convoluted mishmash of different sects, religious groups, interventionists, and then the usual jihadists like ISIS and Al Qaeda. So these are perfect breeding grounds for the kind of terrorism that the United States has long feared and used as a boogeyman. And if we didn't have terrorism before, we sure do now. And Libya is another campaign that makes you scratch your head, particularly in light of the fact that it's held up as some sort of a NATO success, although hardly any more. And in fact, another similarity between Libya and Yemen is these Libya peace talks and some speculation about some coalition government. And it's hard to imagine that happening, particularly in light of the fact that we have ISIS consolidating their position in Libya. And that's going to be the focus here. A couple of things I want to talk about before is the fact that we have these similarities to other countries that I have constantly talked about, Libya being a prime example where we had a strong man, and in this case, providing the highest standard of living in Africa and lots of benefits for its actual citizens. But let's not change the fact that there was a strong man in Libya and he held that country together in the post-colonial world. And he did so very effectively, and the removal of that creates these vacuums from one country after another, and we're seeing these same processes unleashed in Iraq and Syria. So we can look at Iraq and see essentially the blueprint for the future of a failed state that is going to be created in all these countries like Yemen and Libya and Syria, where we're just going to trade in one strongman for another one terrorist administration for another one, and but this time they'll be good partners providing energy for Western countries and swallowing up billions of dollars worth of weapons sold to them. So, and one of the other things we find in Libya that we have to reflect on is this thing about ISIS. One of the things about Libya that makes it interesting is we actually have ISIS members who have been seasoned on the battlefields in Syria and in Iraq, who are operating in Libya now. But a lot of times it's very easy for groups to just become affiliated with ISIS just because they're the new hot thing in town. They're very fashionable, they're very effective, and just like I did a video about groups who used to join the Al Qaeda franchise because it used to just be some small regional group that nobody cared about, and all of a sudden they become an Al Qaeda affiliate, and they're the meanest guys on the block. And we find that now as well, groups having some allegiance to ISIS for that very same reason. They're the new game in town. And then when the other thing we see in Libya is this incredulous surprise by Western governments in the United States and all the players when they flood a country with weapons, and weapons that end up in the hands of religious extremists, and then you end up with these violent cesspools all through that region. So I have a hard time believing it's completely ineptitude. I think it's a part of the strategy. So that's something we have to consider whenever we look at these situations, that this chaos and this bloodbath and these weapons going in all directions is a part of the plan. It really has to be. So let's look a little closer at what's going on in Libya. So we have this town of Sirte, which is an ISIS stronghold now. And the last time I did a video about ISIS presence in Libya, there was about 200 fighters, but apparently they're already up to 3,000 now. And as we know, when ISIS strength gets up around 3,000, they can take on much larger forces. And we know they're well armed because there's plenty of arms in Libya, and plenty of arms to be had if you have actual ISIS members in the area. So once again, we have these European talks. Well, good luck. As previously mentioned, we have a general Hifter, who's in the secessionist east, and then we have a a government based in Tobruk, and that's the Hifter government. Then we have another Islamist government based in Tripoli, and then we have hundreds, if not thousands, of militias spread out throughout the whole region, and then all these tribal sects as well. So good luck putting that patchwork together, particularly when everybody was so well armed, and there will continue to be these power struggles to fill this vacuum. And now there'll be no surprise that there'll be more and more ISIS franchises if ISIS continues to have successes in Libya like they're having in Sirte now. And as all the articles point out, and in this case, this fear is somewhat justified. You're going to have perhaps an ISIS stronghold not that far from Europe, Libya and Italy being relatively close together. And so this could be a problem, particularly in light of the relationship between Italy and Libya, Libya being the main supplier or most of Libyan oil going to Italy. And one of the other trademarks that's coming out of Libya that shows us that the ISIS presence there is solidifying as we're having those same execution videos pop up, although it looks like the ones in Libya at least are legitimate, whereas ones coming out of Syria are doubtful in some cases. But 6.2 million people in Libya, once again, a country like Yemen, where there's not a lot of people there, mostly Sunni in Libya, and so the level of bloodbath we have, considering the size of the population, is also very disturbing. So European plan is they're talking about ground troops. I find that extremely ironic that Europe, after destroying that country seemingly arbitrarily, as they had more or less seemed to join the war against terror, suddenly the country's destroyed, and this flood of weapons goes in there, and we have all supposedly what this entire war on terror is against is everything that's been fostered in Libya, and once again, it has to be part of the plan. It can't be an accident. Although I'm sure I'd be more than welcome to hear anybody put anything in the comments below to explain to me just how it is possible that they could really be that inept to fuck up a country so bad and then have some plan with no foundation to actually go back there and try and put it back together. Oh, I guess I answered my own question, because that's what they're doing in one country after another in the Middle East. They're destroying whatever little there was holding all these countries together, and then thinking they're going to go back in there and create some new glue that will take over that job, and it just is not going to happen. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.